All right, everybody, welcome to the Bad Fan Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Carter, and today I'm joined by my good friends, Brandon Pasnick and Stephen Curl. Gentlemen, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, doing well. Nice to see you. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Excited to be a bad fan today.
Yeah, man, this is great to have you finally on the podcast. Obviously, just episode 2. Hard to say finally. But yeah, like we said like last episode, this is our dream just to have these three guys together to talk sports. In particular, today we're talking Major League Soccer, the 2022 season. We're going to talk about, the preview of the season, what we want to expect from certain players, how the league is going to turn out this year, and we're going to dive into all that together. So we're still getting things started at the Bad Fan Podcast. So we haven't gotten the socials figured out. But if you are watching this, feel free to leave comments on the YouTube channel below. And if you have anything you want to suggest, we have the email at thebadfanpodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, let's dive in, boys. Obviously, last year was sort of getting back to normal-ish for MLS. A lot of teams, particularly like in Canada, didn't even have full stadiums for like half a season. So 2022 is finally the first time that we can have the normal fan experience. I know I'm excited. Steven, I think you should be there at Atlanta United on Sunday. I will be. You going to be there, buddy?
Absolutely. Yeah, season ticket holder. Not to toot my own horn. Had to wait a few years for it. So planning on being there on the home opener for sure.
Yep, in the supporter section. So hopefully we score a couple of goals. Should the beer go flying. Brandon, I know you'd want to be there from past experiences, but not able to be in Atlanta this weekend.
I still might go to the Columbus game on Saturday. I'm still thinking about it.
Hey, he's a Crew fan now anyways.
You abandoned us, and now you're officially a Crew fan. But we still love you. Glad to have you on the podcast today. But yeah, we'll go through each section, a couple minutes through just different things, talking about last season, people who can improve, going through the whole thing. So expect to sit around for like an hour. Hopefully we'll get you guys strapped in and have your attention held well. But yeah, we're going to start things off talking about some teams last year that didn't do so hot, particularly the last in the West and the last in the East. Cincinnati and Houston did not do so hot. Brandon, what can you tell us about these two teams and what can we maybe expect from this year?
Not much. They're both still pretty poor. I think if Cincinnati's going to improve, Luciano Acosta is going to have a similar year to what he did in 2018. He scored 10 goals and assisted 15. That's what a year that was for him. Yeah. But other than that, they don't really have anything going for them, I don't think. They have great fans, a new, beautiful stadium, which, like I said last week, I am going to go check out this year at some point. And they have Alec Khan from Atlanta United, arguably the best backup goalkeeper, ready for a starting position. Maybe he can shore up their defense.
Who do you think is probably the better team going into this season?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I still think Houston's better. Their defense is just better. And they signed Steve Clark, who's been pretty successful in the MLS. He's a goalkeeper. I just don't know how they're going to score goals, but usually a better defense helps more than a better offense in this scenario. However, they did sign a striker from Paraguay named Sebastian Ferreira. So that's sort of fun. I think if they're going to get mid-table, he's going to have another really good season like he did last year where he had 14 goals. So we will see, but I would guess Houston would be higher up the table this year.
Yeah, Acosta, I agree. He has to return to that form. I think when he was in DC, right?
Yeah, that was when he scored 10 and had 15 assists.
Yeah, they need production from him. I think Kubo's still on Cincinnati. Maybe even we'll see our former Atlanta United guy, Brendan Vasquez, start to make an impact. But yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it on the head. I think Houston, I think Cincinnati gave up like 74 goals last year, which is just an outrageous number in a 34-game season. So if they don't improve on the defensive end, I really don't see them climbing up the table in any bit. Steven, you got any thoughts on what we might expect from these two teams this year?
Yeah, man, I think Cincinnati's still suffering from new kid on the block syndrome. And Houston finishing last that's just not going to hold up. This is a club that's won things before, has history, arguably the most history, than a lot of other teams in the MLS. So think there's more demand out of that office, which, Cincinnati got great passionate fans, excited new stadium coming up. So, but yeah, still got to go with Houston.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. We're going to talk a little bit about last season. We'll throw it up on the screen here. Looking at last season's conference standings in the East, we had Nashville kind of climbed to the top, Philadelphia in second in the East, and New England finishing in the top. What maybe could we expect coming out of the East this year? Who might come out on top? Brandon, what do you start?
Oh, man, I would like to see Atlanta United obviously get back up there in the ranks. NYCFC is going to be very formidable, though. But at this point, you still have to respect New England. I think they only got better in the offseason. So I think the East is still chasing New England just a bit. But it's a long season. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, Steve, what about you? What's the East going to turn out to be like this year?
Yeah, man, it's hard not to not really like New England. I mean, they added Josie Altidore and Sebastian Lletget. Guys, been there, done that in MLS, really. And not to mention they got the MVP still. So, yeah, I mean, and then one I'm really curious about, though, here is Nashville really getting 18 draws. It's going to be really interesting. Lost one of their key defenders to Montreal in the offseason in a trade. So kind of curious. Yeah, it's, maybe those crossbars and woodwork shots go one way or another. You got a whole different story instead of 18 draws. So,
yeah. Yeah, well, this year we'll see Nashville actually in the West with the introduction of Charlotte. Charlotte, I don't think is going to stand much of a chance this year. We talked a little bit about it in our kit review, that when your coach isn't instilling a lot of confidence, saying that you're just going to be what were the exact words? Do y'all remember what he said?
It was roughly translated to "we are screwed," I think.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, when your manager is saying that we're screwed, I just don't think you're going to go very far. I said maybe they get 10 games in and have to reevaluate the situation there. But I think I agree with you guys in terms of like where Revolution stands. They did lose a key young player, Tajon Buchanan, the Canadian, which Canada's been really impressive in the World Cup qualifiers. I think he's off to Europe somewhere, and but they do bring in two new vets, in Josie Altidore and Sebastian Lletget. And I think Bruce Arena's history has been a real indicator, I think, with Galaxy and even, I think, New England in the past, wasn't it? He won a couple of MLS Cup titles.
Yep.
But yeah, so you have a lot of teams that are going to try to outgun New England. You have the reigning MLS champs in New York, and I think a more settled Atlanta United. The West will continue to be wild, which we can talk about now. We'll have Nashville, like I said, in the West. Colorado maybe outperform themselves in 2021. I know you guys, we talked a little bit about it, early in the week. What's the West going to really shape out to be? I know it's wild, but what do you guys think?
You go, Steve.
Yeah, man. I got to go with Seattle. I mean, they're the Kings, right? I mean, really the Trailblazers financially, attendance-wise, before, really just kind of set the tone. They go out here in the offseason, signed Rusnak from Real Salt Lake, 11 goals, 11 assists. Brian Schmelzer, I mean, one of the most successful managers, in MLS. I see them, if they don't have injuries, really, like they kind of plagued them a little bit last year. You got Rudy Diaz up top, and you're talking to healthy Jordan Morris. That wasn't even in the equation last year. I mean, the possibilities are really endless, and it's kind of sad with Colorado fans, not having a DP right now, losing Acosta. You just kind of want to see, it's kind of disappointing to see the lack of investment in that, but it's telling, it's who knows what you're going to get out of Colorado this year. I just don't think they'll be able to find the consistent goals. And I think the easy pick, the smartest pick, and anybody with a brain pick has got to be Seattle up top.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. And if I'm not mistaken, being a Tottenham fan, I'm pretty sure Arsenal's owner, Stan Kroenke, who just won a Super Bowl with the LA Rams, I think owns the Colorado team. So it kind of makes sense, of course he'd be a poor owner, just throwing some trash on Colorado. No, Brandon, what do you think about the West? I think Seattle's got it, but what about you?
Seattle's a great shout. I'm going to go with a different team, though, that flew under the radar last year in a bad way due to, I think, some injuries and just some shuffling. and that's LAFC. They're probably my outsider pick. If Vela gets back firing, I think they got Franco.
Playoff Franco from Atlanta making his way to LA.
Yeah, they picked up Kellen Acosta, who's been in the
Mhm.
MLS since 15 probably. I don't know. But he's been around. I think it'll shore up their team a lot, and I'm looking for Vela to have a big year, but it's like Steve said, it's Seattle or really nobody, but I'll throw in LAFC there.
Yeah, no, I think LA, they just have to be united as a team. They got to stay healthy. Vela's, his ability to stay in the starting 11 will be really pivotal to them, which, kind of brings us to that supporter shield question, right? I think New England, they set a whole new record last year for most points in a season, which is incredible. I think a lot of teams will be vying for it, but like I said, I think New England is the team to beat right now. Just the star power, they haven't lost too much. Bruce Arena will know how to rally them together. I think, Brandon, you probably would take Seattle maybe in the supporter shield.
Yeah, I would stick with Seattle. If I was a betting man, I would go and book Seattle right now.
Steve, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Seattle. A quick point, too, on that LA team. They went out and got a goalkeeper from Vancouver that I believe in the goalie metrics was finished however they measure goalies, MLS.com, had it at number 3 or 4 performer out of the year last year, which anybody that's watched LAFC over the past few years, the goalkeeping has just been absolutely abysmal. So it's going to be a big upgrade for them. But, yeah, as far as supporter shield, yeah, I mean, New England, I think will take it maybe, but Seattle is just looking way too good on paper right now.
Yeah, and you make a good point about goalkeepers too. When I was talking about New England, kind of slipping my mind that Matt Turner will be leaving in the summer to Arsenal as well. So we'll see how that affects them as a team, right? I mean, I don't know for sure if he won Best Goalkeeper of the Year. I think he may have in 2021. But yeah, we'll see how they can handle juggling a new set of gloves in the back of the goal. But yeah, I think New England will have to manage the goalkeeping position well if they want to see their supporter shield reign continue. But the MLS, I think kind of controversially 2 years ago changed their playoff format to no longer having 2 legs in the playoff run. It's now just single elimination. So anything can happen in MLS, much like an NCAA tournament or any other tournaments outside of the footballing world. It's just a one and done thing. So I think we might see, we had NYC made a great run this past year, right? They beat New England, I think, in the semifinals. Do you guys remember what the Eastern Conference Final was this past year? I'm trying to remember.
Past year, wasn't it? Was it New England and NYCFC?
It may have been. I don't remember for sure, but anything can happen, right? I know for me, I'm biased, and I think that we'll see some good runs from different couple teams. I think Atlanta United can prove themselves when they're not playing on a baseball field. I think they got unlucky last year in New York. It's so dumb that they have to play on a baseball field. I know you guys feel strongly about that. But I think they're the type of team that just has the raw talent. We'll talk a little bit about some of those guys that have made it onto the roster this year. But I think Gonzalo Pineda has had some time now to adjust to, new city coming from Seattle. But also having a lot of time, a full off season to work with the players, kind of balance things out to figure out what formation they're going to run. And I'm hoping, as an Atlanta fan, but also believing that they're a talented team, that this might be the year again. 2018 feels like a long time ago. We've had, 4 different managers at this point, going from Tata to De Boer to then Heinze, having interim with Valentino, and now Pineda. So that's a lot of turnover since your last MLS title. And, we've seen Seattle not too far from their title and the Columbus Crew, but anything can happen in MLS this year. What might you guys think about, some MLS Cup finalists and what the winners might look like this season in 2022? Steve, we'll start with you.
Yeah, again, man, not to sound like a broken record, but if I'm a betting man, how do you not like Seattle? I mean, again, consistency at the coaching position. Brian Schmelzer, who, I mean, we're talking about a team that can go out there. It has the talent to win, I think, break the MLS curse CONCACAF Champions League this game later tonight and maybe take home that trophy. If the year, it's going to be this year for an MLS team to do it. Go out there. He's won an MLS Cup, the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, I think literally this might be one of the best Seattle teams I've ever seen. So they got to be my pick. I agree with you, though, in Atlanta United. I think some consistency. I think an off-season with the coach they're actually heading into the season with is huge. Fan response around the coach is great. Got a lot of excitement with players coming in. I think there's like this sense of, we're kind of back to our best potentially. And that's a scary place for the people in the league to see Atlanta at, because, you mentioned Frank DeBoer, widely criticized coach, ended up still winning 2 pieces of silverware with him. So, I mean, that's the expectation is MLS Cup. It's really nothing less below Atlanta United. So I think I got to pick be biased here, have Atlanta United against Seattle in the final, maybe with Seattle coming out on top.
Real quick side note. Who was the worst manager, DeBoer or Heinze? Who is just worse in general?
I mean, you got
Heinze didn't get enough time.
Hot take there.
Heinze did not get enough time.
He probably got too much time.
Was it 10 games? Nah, not enough.
Yeah, I mean, you got a guy allegedly not giving players water and another guy calling Atlanta United fans spoiled. So both coaches not really getting off on the best foot with the fan base there, to say the least. But I got to go. Probably Heinze being the worst. I mean, you got a guy isolating Josef Martinez, almost kind of forcing a move out of a star player that says he wants to die in Atlanta.
Yeah,
it's got to be Heinze for me. Build a statue already.
Statue. Yeah, and if you come for the king, you best not miss. I think that's what we learned from that.
Absolutely.
For my take, I agree with what you guys have said. Mentioning the Champions League, NYCFC and Seattle are so strong, at least from their showing so far. It's got to be MLS this year, right? Maybe. I don't know.
Man, you got to hope it. I don't know how many years this competition's been going on, but you just need it to be this year. I mean, especially soon, if there's talks of merging with, Liga MX, like you want to start seeing MLS grow a reputation for having good teams. If you can't beat them internationally in these competitions, then you'll continue to be a laughing stock or people continue to criticize you.
Right. Exactly. But to wrap this little section up, MLS Cup finalist and winner, I'll say Atlanta United as well. I think they're bound to have a great year. And Nashville SC. I think they
final.
Yeah. I think they will make a good run, and maybe surprise some teams. We'll see.
Steve, what matchup would you want to see in the final?
Oh man. I thought it would be Seattle, Atlanta, but Nashville, Atlanta would just be great. We had the pleasure of seeing Nashville's first game against Atlanta. History there. It kind of feels like it's almost written in the stars. So that'd be beautiful to see. I'd say Nashville and Atlanta would just be the atmosphere. The two cities too. I think it'd be huge for MLS too to have two cities that close to each other. To be in an MLS final would just be something really cool to see. So I would love for it.
Man, obviously, wanting to see Atlanta there. A couple of years ago, we almost got the LAFC Atlanta final, which I'm glad it ended up being Portland, so we were able to host it because LA had a really good season in, I think, 2018. But it would just be so fun to see a big team, like Seattle, like Portland. Even if we had to travel to go see them play in Portland or Seattle, that'd be really cool just to have some of the bigger clubs, the ones that have invested in the league well, in a final. I would say those Pacific Northwest teams would just be such a fun atmosphere if it wasn't in Atlanta. I mean, those three stadiums, it's just unbeatable in MLS. You have Lumen Field in Seattle, Providence Park in Portland. I mean, they hosted a great final against New York this year, but, everyone – when they talk about MLS, it's those three stadiums. Mercedes-Benz usually coming out on top of best atmospheres in MLS. Hopefully they can prove it again on Sunday against SKC in Atlanta. But we had an interesting year last year. We talk about prolific goal scorers, expecting really high goal tallies in the past couple of years. Joseph Martinez and Carlos Vela have been going at it the past couple of years. I think, was it 32, 33 goals that Vela set like a goal scoring record. Joseph the year before had like 29. But we saw a little bit of a drop back this past season. We'll pull it up and kind of give you guys an idea looking at it. Castellanos from New York only had 19 goals in an MLS season last year, which, thinking about it, isn't a lot in years past. So as we talk about the Golden Boot, I think that that's something he can repeat, but I think he's going to be really dependent on the volume of, passes that make into the box to him. He had more chances than anyone else. Like, he was getting the ball to him, and just that sheer volume, I think, is what created a lot of his goals. Only getting, 4 penalties taken for goals. His tally was just raw goal-scoring abilities. So if NYCFC can continue to deliver that ball, I think he might have a chance. But it's such a hard thing when you're competing with the likes of those veterans like Joseph Martinez. Joseph has had a year now, 2 years actually, since March 2020 to recover from that knee injury, and that man is deadly up close. In a couple of these World Cup qualifiers, I know he's shown his lethal finishing ability. Carlos Vela coming back this year. Hopefully, mentally he's strong and physically he's ready to play. I want to see those guys going at it again. But Chicharito, the man who drew so much attention for his big transfer 2 seasons ago to LA Galaxy, what can he do? He was 3rd on the tally this past season. Can he lift LA to a playoff spot? I know that was such a big thing that they missed out on last year, not making it to the MLS Cup playoffs. But Brandon, who's going to win the Golden Boot in 2022 in MLS?
Castellanos had an amazing year last year, and I think he will be up there this year again. Rui Diaz is someone to look out for. I know we've already harped on Seattle, but man, if they get rolling like we're sort of expecting them to, he could be bagging 25 easy, I think. So if you're putting up those numbers, then I don't know. But again, like we said, Joseph and Vela coming back, being healthy, hopefully. If they can last the season, I mean, they've always been in and around that 30 mark, 25 plus-ish mark. I'll be biased and say Joseph Martinez.
Yes, I love it. Steve, you going to be as biased as Brandon here?
Man, it's hard not to. But no, I mean, I think of Ruddy Diaz as my pick for the top scorer. I mean, really, Ruddy Diaz is something special. And when you see Seattle playing with just such free will, just in general in football, and you see a goal scorer scoring all those goals, it's usually when they're just scoring for fun. And I would say Chicharito, with Douglas Costa coming in, it's going to be really interesting, kind of how he says. And then he was even quoted the other day saying he's more focused on team success than his own personal goal record, which obviously is the correct answer to give. But, who knows? I mean, you got a new superstar coming in, new DP in Costa. How are they going to shape up? How are they going to play? And then Vela, man, it's the last year on his contract, Where is he going next? Does he want to go to Europe? I don't know. So, I mean, whenever you're playing on the last year of your contract, I think he even came out and said that he's going to deliver a championship to LAFC this year. So,
wow,
yeah, and it takes that mentality. But again, I got to go with Ruddy Diaz. Even just seeing some of the goals he scored against Atlanta United, making our defenders look like schoolboys out there. It's just hard not to ride that Seattle train.
Yeah, I remember watching that game and just being like, sometimes you just get beat. Like, the other team is just so good, and he definitely outperformed us that day. I think I remember one of those goals just being outrageous. But yeah, maybe a couple of those guys haven't been talked about as much as they deserve, but we'll see if it's, worthy of being overlooked, coming back from injuries or just poor 2021 seasons. We'll see guys like Chicha and Vela and Joseph, what they can do in 2022. On the other side of the ball, down the field, we have our defenders, sometimes underappreciated, overlooked. But I think in 2022, specifically when we talk about American defenders, you have the likes of, Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman. Those two guys are really competing just to make a World Cup roster, if the U.S. makes it to the World Cup, sitting in second in the octagon, currently. But, guys like that have been the big names that have been talked about. But when we talk about the Defender of the Year, what can we, look out for? Who might stand out in 2022?
I think it'll be either one of them again, to be honest. Miles or Walker. I'll just stick with an easy answer here. But I will say, and I was going to talk about this later, but Toronto signed Carlos Salcedo, who is a veteran for Mexico and pretty solid defender. I don't know his stats at all, but I know when we play Mexico, the national team, he's always one that catches my eye. So he could be in the mix. I know there's a lot of other good defenders, and usually it goes to a team that defends well as a team. So I expect Nashville to be, pretty formidable again. So I'll go Walker again, but I think it'll be between Miles and Walker.
Steve, where do you land on this one?
Yeah, I think I'll give the edge to Miles, just because I like his goal scoring ability. I think that's something that he kind of brings to the table. And Walker, I say that, and I watched Walker Zimmerman score the first Nashville goal against Atlanta United on their opening night. So Walker definitely has that as well. But, Miles scored some huge goals in the summer for the U.S. men's national team, mentioning both those guys kind of breaking through. But that's something that I think is going to come out of Miles more this year on club level. Is I think he'll bag maybe like 4 or 5 goals this year, honestly.
Wow.
Solid rock in the back, potential move to Europe coming up. I think Walker is at a point in his career where he's kind of staying put. I don't really see him making a move. Again, I think that's something that Miles desires as well, is to go abroad. So I think he'll be showing out this year. The expectation for Atlanta is MLS Cup. So same to be said for Nashville as well. However, yeah, I think I'm going to give the edge to Miles this year.
This is sort of off the cuff, but I think, how do we feel? We're Atlanta fans, but in general, Atlanta has lost George Bello, and they didn't protect in the expansion draft Anton Walks. Do we expect Atlanta to have a drop-off because of that, or do we feel like they can recuperate and still be strong in the defensive back area?
Yeah, I'll go first. We signed Gutman even before last year and loaned him out to Red Bull. I think that Atlanta front office, although you can say what you want about Bocanegra, but yeah, I think the Atlanta front office saw this, the writing on the wall, and kind of expected this kind of move to move on. Us as fans, we were kind of hoping we had maybe one more year of it, but Gutman's well above a great just defender in the left back position. He's looked well this season, coming over from, I believe it was somewhere in the UK, I believe, where we signed him from. But yeah, let him out to Red Bull. I think it was Aberdeen. It might have been Aberdeen.
If it was our Aberdeen connection or not, but go ahead.
Yeah, but no, I don't think there'll really be a drop off, honestly. Walks will miss as well, but you got Alan Franco, Miles Robinson.
Yeah, that's a really good pairing to have.
You got a really good big pairing there. Again, injuries is the big question for Atlanta United. That's when you start asking questions out of players like George Campbell.
Yeah, Brooks Lennon too. Will he kind of step up this season? Wherever he ends up, does Jake Mulroney drop back? What kind of formation does Pineda throw out there? Well, going even further back down the field, goalies play a pivotal part. Last year, Matt Turner took home the glory, the goalkeeper of the year from New England. Brandon, I know you had some thoughts about who might take away the Golden Glove this year.
Yeah, and I'll stick with Nashville. Goalkeeper Joe Willis. He's had some good years. And again, I think their defense is going to be just as good this year. When you have a good defense in front of you, you tend to not let in as many goals.
Yeah.
I think it's a good shout. This one's always hard to guess. So who knows? But I don't know, Steve. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have your kind of, your Sean Johnsons at NYCFC, or maybe your Stephen Fries, or maybe even Andre Blake, really talented goalkeepers. And so, but yeah, I think that's a good shout from Nashville with that pick. Me personally, I think Andre Blake, he's got some freak saves.
Yeah.
So that man is just athletically just out there making some crazy last man saves out there. So that's probably my pick. Again, I have seen him save too many Atlanta shots alive. But
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good keepers in MLS. Obviously, there's some, pretty bad ones, just going to be frank. I think, guys like Sean Johnson, he just led his team to an MLS Cup title. I think he has a potential to make a name for himself. I mean, the U.S. team has some good goalkeepers, but this is the year to prove yourself, right? And if I'm a keeper in the U.S., I want to be making that World Cup roster. And he's got the physique, he's got the hands, he's got the abilities. Just he has to be consistent. And I think maybe he could be the dark horse for the goalkeeper of the year, and maybe a dark horse for making that U.S. Roster in Qatar this year. So we'll see. I mean, anything can happen, right? These guys are talented, but it does come down to the least amount of goals going in the back of the net. So those numbers don't lie, obviously. MVP last year, Carlos Hill took it home for New England. Had an outrageous year. I think he had something like 19 assists with New England.
something crazy.
And however many goals with it, which is just insane. Thinking about that is just crazy. We can kind of look and see. He had 18 assists, 4 goals, which, that's just crazy. I don't remember the last time in MLS, guys like that had that many assists, which is crazy. So as we kind of think about it, MVP. I know MVP is a contentious topic, that can go all over the radar sometimes of, favoritism, just to people that have shown for a long time how talented they are. Brandon, what might it look like in the MVP race this year? Maybe a couple candidates who might come out on top.
Yeah, I think Carlos Hill will be good again. I don't think he'll win it this year. Being in Columbus, I'll mention Zelarayan, but Columbus, I think they'll be your middle of the road team, so I don't think he really has a chance of winning it. But man, he is a phenomenal player. Maybe out of left field here, but Luis Arrujo, winger for Atlanta United, I think he can be the Miggy to Joseph, from 2018. This guy did it in France. He beat out PSG with Lille, if you guys don't know, with Lille for the French title. Somehow we acquired him, and he's now on our team. So he looked good last year, still settling in. He has a beautiful left foot. And if things go his way, and we're expecting a big year out of Joseph, we're expecting a big year out of the team. I don't think anybody's talking about him or even knows he's on Atlanta United, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think he'll end up with 12 goals and 10 assists this year, which is a lot. But I think that will be enough for him to win MVP.
Dang. Steve, where are you landing?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon pick. I think my favorite thing about Arrujo has got to be the goal. Steakhouse with Rossetto, how they get together in the camera and cut up their steaks. That's just beautiful. So hopefully he's doing that. I got a different pick. I'm not picking a Seattle player for once. I'm actually going to go Milojevic, I believe that's how I butcher his name, out of Montreal.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal last year. 16 assists, 4 goals. And again, made that move from Chicago, just the dumpster fire that is Chicago Fire, honestly, at the moment. And got to change the scenery. Low pressure up in Canada. Didn't make playoffs last year, but again, 23 years old, 4 goals, 16 assists, as opposed to goals and 6 assists the season prior. I mean, that's a huge jump. And I mean, even watching them in the CONCACAF Champions League, scoring with confidence. I think that's something that I hope to see more of this next year with Montreal. I think Montreal only got better. And again, 23 years old, only getting better, ideally. So, yeah, that's my off-the-cuff, non-Seattle player that I'm picking.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good pick. That's a good shout for sure. It's tough because you have some new guys coming in. Like you have Xherdan Shaqiri coming in Chicago, which for me, I think it's a great pickup for Chicago. They were really missing out on some goal scoring ability last year. I don't think they even ranked very high in goals scored in 2021, but he's got great quality, but I just don't think he has it in him to carry an entire team. I don't think he'll have a high goal tally unless they had a lot of penalties. Douglas Costa's got some great talent. I don't think he's gonna, take LA to an MVP level. Arrujo is a great pick. Honestly, I know we keep talking about Atlanta and Seattle and all these teams, but when you have European quality and a team that won the French League, it's just hard to look at that. Maybe we're missing something, the three of us, and people aren't talking about it. I don't know, but it's just crazy that he does have the speed. I mean, he had a goal last year, and I immediately thought, wow, that is a Gareth Bale left foot, curled into the left side of the net from the right. And that's just a beautiful thing to see. And I think he has the smarts. I think he has the speed. Just the ability to be on the ball is pretty incredible. So if he doesn't win MVP, I think what you guys said were some good picks. But, obviously it's all up in the air this season. But, with MVPs, with goalkeepers and defenders, it all takes a team, right? But importantly, it's the voice of the team that people, look to when the team is on a high and when on a low. Sometimes they get fired 11 games in, and sometimes they can take the spotlight away with a post-game interview. So that brings us to the manager of the year. MLS has had some great managers, and they've had some short-term managers that didn't quite make the cut. I think this year, we had some change of scenery for a couple of guys. Brandon, I think you might talk about someone who had a move this year.
Definitely. It's the old man, Bob Bradley. He is now in Toronto. The White Walker Bob.
Those blue eyes are terrifying.
Yeah, he went even further north, so I'm sure there will be some more memes. But he walked into an okay team. They didn't do so well last year. But with what he's did with LAFC in the couple years he was there, I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. And he's been backed, I think, enough to at least get them up. And I do believe they will make the playoffs this year. So that really could – and if they make a run, I think people will start looking at him and being like, that's a manager of the year. I think he's definitely a candidate, just a preseason candidate. Will he win it? I think I don't know. But that'll be my choice.
Yeah, I mean, especially too, they were second to last in the East last season. So anything near a playoff spot, I'm sure will give him some sort of recognition. Steve, where do you land on this one?
Yeah, I mean, another quick thing on Bob, man. They also, not only did they bring him in as manager, but also gave him the power and the ability of being the sporting director at the club as well. So He is in charge of all different levels of footballers at Toronto. So putting all the eggs in one basket, manager-wise, also bringing in Insigne. I'm really curious to see what happens up in Toronto. But yeah, again, I'll put it back on my super boring train of Seattle, Brian Schmelzer. And I think he at least wins at least 2 trophies this year, honestly. And they could get blown out tonight in the CONCACAF Champions League, and I could be eating my words on the next show. I don't see it happening. I believe they play it tonight, 10:45, something really late. But out there, win CONCACAF Champions League, and you can already argue for that, maybe depending on how people value that trophy, and go ahead and give them the top, something that no coach has ever done in the MLS.
Yeah.
And, how do you not like them for the U.S. Open Cup? How do you not like them for the MLS? Again, a little bit of a boring pick there, but the man's just been in charge of one of the most successful clubs in the MLS for a reason.
Yeah, so you kind of see potentially Seattle just running away with everything this year, don't you? Getting in trouble, potentially taking.
Yeah, I think he's Brian Schmelzer for president. Jordan Morris, Secretary of State. I think they're just going to take it all, honestly.
Stephen Fry, Secretary of Defense.
Absolutely.
I just think I said it earlier. I did not enjoy his time as the U.S. manager. I'm talking about Bruce Arena, but he's got a good thing going in New England.
Absolutely.
It'd be hard if they repeat what happened last year to not give him Manager of the Year. I'll talk about it just because I'm obligated to as a fan, but if Pineda and Atlanta can continue to rally that team, I think they went on like a 12-game unbeaten streak at some point last year. If he can continue that form and bring it into 2022, it's going to be hard to stop them. Hard to not get some recognition there from a team that really, from the time that the MLS tournament that happened in 2020 to the end of that season, there's a lot of turmoil within the club. If he can turn around and get some hardware, I think he might have his name thrown into the mix. It's an important part of a manager to make sure all aspects of the team are looked after. That includes your young players, developing in an academy, developing, newcomers into the league. I think that we might see some new faces really rise up to the ranks of MLS this year, make some names for themselves, potentially take some hardware home themselves. Steve, Young Player of the Year award. There's plenty of people you could talk about. A couple of our great players in MLS actually left this year. And you talk about Pepe, guys like him that left for Europe. So we have some new guys to keep our radar on in 2022. Who might be a Young Player of the Year this year for you?
Yeah, I mean, jog my memory on this Young Player of the Year. Is there like certain specifications, age limit, first year in the league, or?
I'm not sure. I would assume probably like 21 or under. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That would make the most sense to me. But yeah, obviously, like in that age group, how they perform, I'm sure would be the prerequisites for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying before the show here that Dallas is going to be a fun team this year. And they just signed, forget the man's name. I believe he's like 19 years old out of Independiente. They spent a $7 million transfer fee, so no cheap price. It's a winger. Again, the name's escaping me right now. But yeah, and I look at that. I look at that top three with Paul Arriola, along with, Ferreira. That's just going to be a team that's scoring. And so I know they got a kid down there in Dallas, and as well as I heard there's a kid in the DC Academy as well. He's been training with the first team here in preseason as well. But yeah.
Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I wrote down two, and one's maybe an obvious one, and one's maybe an outside shot. But Thiago Almada for Atlanta United, he could have gone directly to Europe. Somehow we got him, and I think his potential level is just so high. Along with this next player, and I might butcher his name, but Shaquille Ruddy. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's in Toronto. He's 17 years old. He should be getting some playing time this year. Like I said, Bob Bradley will probably see something in him, and they were already fighting off offers for him. He's Canadian. So if either of these guys live up to their potential and, possibly win this Young Player of the Year award, we could see them be gone to Europe, next winter for over 20 million easily. Those are just two that, to put on your radar to look out for this year. I think Thiago probably has a better shot at it, but Shaquille Ruddy.
All right. Yeah, I mean, plenty to watch out for. I do think, like you guys said, that you guys brought out some good players. But I think we talk about young guys, we talk about players of the year, but then there's those players that have to kind of reclaim maybe what they had, guys that need to step up once again. And I think players that maybe need to impress. And then the guy I was thinking about, well, kind of two people. One guy that's really going to have a lot of eyes on him this summer when he arrives in Toronto is going to be Lorenzo Insigne. A star player, obviously, in Napoli. Even the reigning European champions, Italy, which we'll see if they even make the World Cup this year, which is a crazy thought. The idea that either Italy or Portugal won't make the World Cup. So choose no European champion, no Ronaldo. I'm choosing no Ronaldo. But yeah, I think he's gonna have a lot of eyes on him. Big transfer. He's gonna be making a lot of money. But a team that we talked about that finished second to last in the East. Bob Bradley coming in, a manager that's gonna have obviously a lot of attention on his new player. Will he be able to produce? We'll see. And the hometown guy, Joseph Martinez, Carlos Vela, those two guys really need to find their form in 2022. We just talked about how 2 years ago they were competing for MVP, scoring like 30-plus goals each. Joseph had an ACL tear in 2020, so he's had plenty of time to recover. So, his form and fitness shouldn't be an excuse anymore. It's really going to be up to how he produces on the field for me for the Five Stripes. But again, we won't see Lorenzo Insigne until the summer, so he doesn't get a full season to, maybe be in the MVP race. But definitely going to be someone that needs to prove that he's worthy of a big transfer fee like that. Steven, who has to impress or have a good season in MLS in 2022 for you?
Man. Yeah, I mean, I would say that has to have a good season. I mean, I got to go with Vela. I think that's maybe the easy answer there with 5 goals, 4 assists last year. It's just not what you're paying $6 million a year for. Seeing what he can do with 34 goals, maybe 15, 14 assists, something stupid like that. He's got to get back up there. Made good on his promise of bringing LA championship. You're putting that pressure on yourself as a player. And it's going to be hard to do that. Losing some big players like Atuesta in the off season, on the Costa coming in, some other reinforcements around you as well. But yeah, I would say there's more pressure definitely on Vela as opposed to a Martinez. Because again, I just think Atlanta United's attack, he's got so many different pieces. But yeah, so I would say Vela for my answer. He's got to have a better season.
Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you guys bring up some really good points about these guys, and honestly, I don't disagree with any of them. Insigne is very interesting, and the reason why I think he might have to have the best season when he comes in is because, like I said, Toronto could be at a point where they're pushing for playoffs. So I think he'll be crucial in that final push on the second half of the season. This is a team we mentioned earlier, but Chicago, they signed Xherdan Shaqiri. It's a risky signing by Chicago, I will say. I think it's fun to have him here, but I think it's definitely risky. Yes. God, I think he's 5'4", but he's awesome. But
size of a tree.
definitely. But he's injury prone. He's very injury prone. And he's pretty inconsistent when he does play. However, when he's on, he is on, and he can be a lot of fun. So for Chicago's sake, I really hope he has a good season. But I agree with all your guys' points as well.
Comeback player of the year. This is kind of a weird one to pin down. Is it someone that was injured? Is it someone that had a bad year? Yeah, for me, it's the same person I just talked about, needing to have an important season. Carlos Vela, if he's healthy and locked in, this will be the award for him. I mean, like we talked about, it's his last year on his contract. If he wants to move out of LA, if he wants to bring a trophy to LA, if he can do all of that, I think comeback player of the year might be the one for him in 2022. B-Pat, what about you?
Yeah, I think we might all agree on this one. It's Carlos Velas for the taking. The reason why I didn't put Joseph in this category is because Joseph did score 11 goals last year when he came back.
That is true, yeah.
Which is a lot.
Including that stunner in Cincinnati to qualify for the playoffs for Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was awesome, wasn't it? Anywho, yeah, so that's why I think this is Carlos Vela's category.
Steve,
I want to go with the outside shot here. For comeback player of the year, making the move to New England. You can't convince me that the U.S. has a firm number 9. I got to go Josie Altidore. Who knows?
Nice.
Relinking up with the coach you're familiar with Bruce Arena on the international level.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it'd be a very fun MLS comeback that I personally would really enjoy. To see the big man up top scoring goals again. He is MLS,
Josie.
And you could argue that he's the most consistent U.S. striker, at least that you'd see on TV for over the past, honestly, 10 years. So it'd be great just to see him scoring goals and having fun again. And who knows, pushing for that U.S. roster spot.
That'd be crazy to see. I don't know. Is he 32 or something like that now? I mean, he's got to be somewhere in his 30s. But yeah, if we could see him perform, I mean, that would really shake things up for this World Cup roster coming up. I think having his veteran presence would just be awesome for that team to experience. I mean, because potentially if he's not on it, you'd have maybe John Brooks. If DeAndre Yedlin can perform in Miami, we kind of glossed over him a little bit, making his return back to the U.S. after time in Turkey and in England. But yeah, if we can see Josie perform, that's a good one. I like your pick, straying away from Vela. But the teams that we need to watch out for, I'm talking this year about LA. Both teams in LA, I think, underperformed. It's pretty obvious. I don't think they did underperform last year in that competitive Wild West conference. For me, I'm expecting them both to bounce back. El Trafico is going to be a really important matchup this year. If Chicha can perform, if Vela can perform, if Douglas Costa is really going to be the playmaker that the Galaxy are expecting, I think these are two teams that we need to be keeping an eye on that might surprise some people, or they may exceed expectations that people just weren't ready for. Steven, what's a team for you that we need to keep our eyes on that might surprise a couple people this year?
That might surprise a couple people this year. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with the LA Galaxy. Honestly, I don't think anyone's really expected anything out of them recently. Even though they're usually in the media all the time, second highest payroll in the MLS. Really and you take Zlatan coming in, that was really the last time they're really kind of potentially challenging for anything. And so to see Chicharito get into there last summer, perform pretty well, it's exciting. And so I think LA's not really looked at too much right now, beyond just the media and, all that different kinds of stuff. So I would say LA is going to go out there and surprise some people this year and climb up in the playoffs and probably make a pretty deep run. I'm looking for a semifinal for them. I'm looking for big things out of LA. Payroll's there. Championships have been there. The history's there. And the fans have been more than patient over the past few years. It's been a while that LA Galaxy has been as dominant as they're known for.
Yeah, and I think I have three teams here. Like I've mentioned, I think Toronto is definitely one of those teams we have to look out for. They've made nothing but good moves, I think. So I think Bob Bradley's going to work some magic there. Like I said earlier, they brought in Carlos Salcedo and Insigne in the summer. There's something to look out for. I think Montreal is another team. I don't think they finished very well last year, but they're in Champions League this year. They seem to be doing well. Like Steve mentioned, Milivojevic is – I might have mispronounced his name, of course, but he's young. And what we didn't say is he's trying to make the national team. Don't get it twisted. He's trying to be on that World Cup roster come the end of this year. So that's going to be a team to look out for. And then a team that nobody really talks about, maybe it's because the system is better than maybe all the players. I don't necessarily know if they have any crazy star players, but Sporting Kansas City finished, I think, third last year. They always seem to be around, hanging around. And if you don't know much about them, they're very fun to watch. So take a look at them.
Yeah, that's good. I love me some Sporting Kansas City, my original MLS team. Love them. Yeah, I think they have an injury there. I think it's either Saloy or Paludo. I think they might be out for the year. So that'll definitely be a big blow to them. They do have some consistency within the squad. Peter Vermes has been around the club for, I think, close to a decade now. But yeah, that's a good pick to watch out for. We're going to kind of wrap up here in a couple of minutes. We're going to do a quick fire of our 5 big games that we'll be looking out for opening weekend at MLS. I know I'll be at Atlanta versus Sporting Kansas City. We'll talk about that in a second. Steve, you're going to be there. Brandon might be in Columbus, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's start out some quick predictions. LAFC, Colorado. Steven, who you got?
Oh man, gotta be LAFC for me. Don't think Colorado can get it done.
Brandon?
LAFC.
Yeah, LAFC is going to come out strong for me. Colorado, I just don't think will have, the inspiration to start out the season strong. LA with the new coach, some returning players. I think they got this one. Portland, New England. Brandon, what you got?
A great one to start off.
Really good game.
I guess I won't say anymore because we're doing it quick. I'll go Portland.
Portland. Okay, Steve.
I go New England in a really good game, 3-2, something crazy like that.
For me, if it's in Portland, Portland's got it. If it's at home, New England, I think they'll have the great shot. Bringing home the Supporter Trophy, they'll be in front of their home fans. They can take it there. But Portland, if it's in Portland. Atlanta, Sporting Kansas City. Atlanta, easy for me. Brandon.
Atlanta.
Steven.
I'll go Atlanta, but maybe not easy as you're kind of alluding to. I hope it's that easy. I think it'll be a hard game, but hoping Atlanta, yeah.
We have LA Galaxy versus the reigning MLS Cup champions, NYCFC. I think if it's in LA, actually, I don't even think it matters. I think NYCFC, they're going to prove that their title wasn't a fluke. They'll win week 1. Steve? Brandon?
Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with LA. Again, that's a team that I think is going to make a huge jump. I think they're going to come out there, Chicharito scoring goals, Douglas Costa, Arrujo at the right back position. I just think they got a great team. And I hope they live up to it this year.
I hope they don't. They do have great jerseys, though, which we discussed last week. So if you want to take a look at that episode, go check it out. It was a lot of fun. But it's easily NYCFC for me. They're already hot this year. I don't think they changed much of their roster from winning the cup last year. It's got to be New York.
Let's go. For me, this might be the Western Conference Finals matchup. Starting out week 1, this will be great. We have Seattle versus Nashville. Brandon, who's going to take week 1? Maybe this is a preview for the end of the season.
Ooh, yeah, I think it is. Man, I just like Seattle's roster much more than Nashville. Nashville like to sit back, hunker down, and they don't mind that at all. I could see a draw actually, but I'll take Seattle.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll go with that draw. 2 great teams early on in the season. Yeah, I mean, Seattle's got the CONCACAF Champions League, kind of get some legs moving around, but I think with a lot of these game 1s, you're not of the teams out on display yet, so I gotta draw.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. The potent offense of Seattle versus MLS Defender of the Year and Walker Zimmerman. I think if we're picking a team, I'm going Seattle, but a draw makes sense, unfortunately. But Seattle is the fun pick for me. Some closing thoughts, guys. Anything we may have missed? Anything you want to talk about as we kind of close up episode 2 of the podcast, The Bad Fan? Any predictions? Anything you guys want to throw in before we close out?
I was going to say this earlier at the beginning, but we got it going. Steve will have to introduce himself and the teams he likes and stuff probably next week because we did that last week. But other than that, yeah, if you like what we're doing, like it, comment down below and share it with your friends. This is fun for us, sort of like a passion project, and just letting our creativity out.
Yeah, first episode of me on the podcast. Enjoying it. Again, echoing my boys. This is something that we love doing. So I'm trying to think of one more hit. I heard Don Garber kind of crying out like a little baby earlier. Like MLS is not a retirement league. Had some comments out of Neymar, which I think would just be to talk about for a minute.
Dang, I believe
the quote was he gets to further his career, maybe like 3 more years, gets 3 months vacation, coming to the MLS. That didn't rub Don Garber too well, but in reality, it's funny because he would bend over backwards to get Neymar in the MLS.
Yeah.
I know that's the big development. I don't know if it'll be this year. It might be in a year or 2, but just watching the Neymar saga develop, heck, we might even get a Messi saga. Suarez too. All these guys, Griezmann, have all been connected mostly to Miami. David Beckham. Yeah, we got the vampire in the house. I just think, something we got to keep an eye on the next year is how is MLS going to continue to grow? Something we might talk about in the future. We talked about even last episode was how is the MLS going to allow itself to grow financially? How are they going to change some rules like the designated player rule, general allocation money, all that different stuff that we would love to cover in the future. But for today, that was our MLS 2022 season preview. If you've made it this far, we're really honored and glad that you guys stuck around to listen to three guys that just love talking about sports. And today it was about Major League Soccer. We want to see this league grow. We want people's interest in it to grow. And I think today was just a good example of, things to be excited about. It's the start of a new season. It's anyone's game. We might see Cincinnati make the playoffs. They might make a run, or we might see teams fall, crater out like Colorado, maybe. Who knows? But like Brennan said, honestly, we want some critiques. We want some feedback from you guys. If you've subscribed to the channel already, thank you so much. If you've made this far again, please do subscribe. Please like, maybe share with a friend who wants to, see what the MLS might be like this season. But we're really glad you made it. And we'll be coming out with some more episodes soon, following some topics that we have interest in. But stay tuned on YouTube. In the meantime, we'll keep you updated on any developments in the social area, anything that might come about. But thank you guys. This has been the Bad Fan Podcast, episode 2. I'm Cole Carter signing off. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.